What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive into the news, just a couple quick housekeeping items. Number one, do check out my website, btcsessions.ca. This is where you can reach out to me directly and book your own BTC session. We can chat Bitcoin, wallets, proper security, whatever you like. All you need to do is scroll down to the very bottom. There is a contact form for you there. Secondly, big shout out to the guys at Ledn.io, the sponsors of the show. This is where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral for a Canadian dollar or, in select international markets, US dollar loan. So how's it work? You head to the website, there is a slider, and you can check out for a specific dollar amount how much Bitcoin would be required to deposit. And the application process takes about 2 minutes. If you're successful, your bank account is typically funded within 24 hours. So I tried it out a couple weeks ago myself, worked like a charm. And if you are looking to get your hands on dollars, but you would not like to sell your Bitcoin to do so, this could be an option for you. They've also got a deal right now where if you click the link that I provided down below and you sign up and apply for a loan, if you're successful, you will get an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin allocated to your account. So be sure to check them out. It always helps out the show. But without further ado, let's dive into the news. So this was an interesting story I saw the other day. $1 trillion brokerage giant TD Ameritrade is quietly testing Bitcoin. So this came out of a guy on Twitter, actually. He said, so he tweeted out, this guy named Cryptopolis, breaking, BTC is now being traded on the Nasdaq. I bought 1 Bitcoin through my TD Ameritrade account. According to the chart, it started April 10th, 2019. You also had Charlie Lee tweeting out, just saw that TD Ameritrade is testing both Bitcoin and Litecoin trading on its brokerage platform. And the second tweet there is the one that ended up being more true. It was indeed just a test, but a lot of the people in the back end of TD Ameritrade seem to be keeping relatively quiet about what's actually going on there. Now, just a little bit of background on TD Ameritrade. So they have more than 11 million clients with more than $1 trillion worth of assets. They also already offer Bitcoin futures trading. That's where you can essentially bet on the future price of Bitcoin. And a lot of people hearken to this as what will, I guess, start the next bull run. What will be the cause of the next bull run is these on-ramps for these institutional investors that are just waiting and clamoring for their chance to get in. But I don't necessarily buy into that narrative, because realistically, if you have somebody with a lot of money that wants to dive into Bitcoin and really thinks that the asset is a good bet moving forward, they're already in. They've already been buying OTC, dollar cost averaging over an extended period of time and sitting on it through whatever means necessary. Just because they open up something on TD Ameritrade does not suddenly mean that people are going to jump in the market and we're going to go to the moon. On the contrary, I think that news tends to follow the price rather than price following the news. I think when we're in bull markets, you end up hearing more positive stories because that's what the media wants to focus on given the state of the market. And the inverse is true when we're on the way down. The media tends to cherry pick out the bad, the negative press, the negative bits of news. Because let's be honest, there's always a ton of positive and negative things happening in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency simultaneously. What the media decides to focus on, I think, is a direct reflection of where the price has been going recently. A good example of this was Bitcoin futures trading. Now, this really has no bearing on the actual trading of Bitcoin because it's settled in cash the way that these futures markets worked when they first came out in December of 2017. We were near the top and they launched these futures platforms. Well, what happened then? Well, Bitcoin had gone up quite a bit that month. And by quite a bit, I mean it went from fucking $10,000 to $20,000 in a few weeks, which is insane. And of course, it was gonna crash. That is unprecedented. So when the inevitable crash came, the narrative became that the cause of this was that people now had access to easy ways to short Bitcoin, which wasn't even factual because they already had access to stuff like that on platforms like BitMEX. So really, what happened there was that Bitcoin started going down and the media started looking for reasons as to why. And they honed in on, hey, there's futures trading, and these people that wanted to short Bitcoin all along are now allowed to do it. So that's what happened. I don't think that was true. I think the pullback and the subsequent bear market was inevitable anyways, and it just happened to coincide loosely with when these platforms were launched. I think what we're probably going to see is nothing like these actual Bitcoin trades on TD Ameritrade will really launch until we're well into the next bull market. Why? Because I think at that point, when Bitcoin starts to come back and return to previous all-time highs, it will give platforms like TD Ameritrade the confidence to launch a product like this because they realize that, yes, this asset is going to be around for quite some time to come. And so at that point, what does the media do? Likely they will use this as the excuse for the bull market rather than saying that the bull market is the reason for the launch of these platforms. So are they testing right now? Absolutely. Are they going to launch it right now? I'm doubtful. Let's move on. Now, I was talking about this the other day, and this is hilarious. I called it bullshit because it was bullshit. But John McAfee had said that he knew the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, and he was sick of Craig Wright's garbage of him claiming to be Satoshi and suing people and so on and so forth. And he said, listen, this is heard in the community. I'm going to gradually count down and narrow down the list of nominees that could be Satoshi and eventually just reveal him if he doesn't reveal himself. And I said, likely he has no idea who Satoshi is, or he thinks he knows who Satoshi is, but it probably isn't him, and even if it was, there would be no evidence to back it up. Well, he obviously backpedaled because I don't think it's possible for him to credibly out anybody as Satoshi, and if he did, then people would instantly be able to say there's no proof or your proof is false. And essentially the reason here, he said that there's a US extradition request to the Bahamas that's imminent, and he met with his extradition lawyer, and he said it's clear that releasing the identity of Satoshi at this time could influence the trial and risk my extradition. I cannot risk that. I'll wait. Now, again, I just think it's ridiculous, even the reasoning there. I just think he has no idea who he is. And I'm just going to leave it there. The whole story is ridiculous. There's going to be a million people that claim they know Satoshi or are Satoshi in the coming decades. So strap in, buy a hat, hold the fuck on, because it's about to hit the fan repeatedly. Now, I'm not going to go through the article here, but I'm going to talk about the title because, again, I don't necessarily agree with the title of this. It said that Litecoin led Bitcoin's price rally, and now it's hinting at a pullback. So it's suggesting that the gradual and steady rise of Litecoin price over the first quarter of the year, which was impressive, was the reason for Bitcoin's price rallies. I don't think that's possible. Okay, so why? Let's take a look at CoinMarketCap and the market caps of different coins, namely Litecoin and Bitcoin. Litecoin has a market cap of around $4.5 billion. Bitcoin has a market cap of around $96.5 billion. For Litecoin to have impacted the rally or the price of Bitcoin, it would mean more or less that people profiting from Litecoin's rise would be taking their money from those profits and putting it into Bitcoin. And there's just not the capital there to do that, really. Like Litecoin's rise was great. They went up quite a bit this year. I think they doubled. Yeah, they just about doubled at some point. But it's been insane, but that kind of money still wouldn't budge or wouldn't move the Bitcoin price substantially if all of it dumped back into Bitcoin. I think realistically, Bitcoin was just doing its own thing, just following its own trajectory. And most other cryptocurrencies, while they have seen more green this year than they've seen last year, obviously, because last year was a friggin' bloodbath, but the other coins, they've been going upwards as well, gradually over time. But I think that you've seen overall, and you can tell from up here, Bitcoin Dominance. Actually, maybe I'll show you this other this other article, which basically contradicts the Litecoin-led Bitcoin price rally. Bitcoin matures sensationally while other cryptos fall as it soars above 5,600. So yes, Bitcoin had a rally the other night to 5,650 on some exchanges, which is a 2019 high. We haven't seen those prices since last year. Well, at the same time, you saw a lot of cryptocurrencies making lesser gains, sometimes making, diving below what they were at, so making losses while Bitcoin made gains. Well, what has that contributed to? Bitcoin dominance continues to go up. So when you refer to dominance, they're talking about these numbers here, the market cap of each coin, the total amount of money essentially that the entirety of all coins issued are worth. And Bitcoin, when you add all those numbers together, Bitcoin accounts for nearly 55% of the total money sitting in cryptocurrency. So not only that, but when Bitcoin gets smashed down, gets hammered down like today, obviously it had a big run up the other day and it's down a bit. So it's down from 5,650 to about 5,470 sitting here. So it's down 2.5%. But what happens to altcoins when Bitcoin gets smashed down like that? Well, they see quite often double, triple, quadruple, even 6 times the losses that Bitcoin hits. And that's what's contributing to this dominance continuing to go up through the year, which I discussed the other day is already impressive that it's this high given the way that market caps are calculated. And essentially you can spin up a coin, and if you're able to sell even just a little bit and there's not much liquidity to the coin itself, you can have a $1 billion market cap relatively easily if there's a bit of hype behind it and you can, allocate some to an exchange. So really, I don't think that this article holds any credence. I think the real reason behind Litecoin's rise over the beginning of the year is the fact that the issuance of new coins gets cut in August of this year for Litecoin. It's called the halving. The same thing happens to Bitcoin, but it doesn't happen to Bitcoin again until 2020, so next year. So last time Litecoin had a halving, there was a bit of a FOMO in. There's a big spike about a month prior. Even after the halving, after the huge pullback from that spike, Litecoin was still considerably higher than it was before the halving. So I think it's kind of following the same trajectory. It's just that this time around, people may have been scaling in a tad early because that was a pretty decent rise that was steady through the first quarter of the year. I do think there will be pullbacks, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the same kind of crazy spike that we saw back in 2015 for Litecoin, followed by a subsequent massive pullback. So if you see something like that, just be careful. Don't FOMO into like a tripling of Litecoin's price because it may be short-lived. But, as always, do your own research. I could be totally wrong about all of this. You never know. Let's move on from there. Enough price talk. One other fun thing here that I saw. These Coinstar machines seem to be multiplying like bunnies across the US. We don't have them here in Canada, but we have plenty of Bitcoin ATMs. I think there's like 50 or 60 in my city. My city is about 1.2 million people. But yeah, we've got a lot of Bitcoin ATMs here, and they're pretty widespread across Canada. Anyways, these guys, Coinstar, they started up with only 70 machines. Well, they just expanded to 2,100 different machines across the states, 19 different states to be specific. Essentially, you're able to convert your cash into Bitcoin. So they do have a $2,500 limit, which really is nothing to scoff at. And yeah, they just accept US dollar bills, whatever you want to put into it. It's been growing quite a bit, and they've had some pretty good growth as far as usage as well. And hey, I'm happy anytime there is more methods for people to onboard into Bitcoin. That's great. Just beware when you're using it. Doesn't say it in this article, but Bitcoin ATMs can be quite expensive, so they tend to be used for convenience, or perhaps you don't want to sign up for an exchange, although in the States I've heard that some of these kiosks can be still pretty AML, KYC heavy. You may need to provide ID and a bunch of other crap. It's not really that way here. You just, at most, usually you need a phone number. But anyways, more onboarding. Wonderful. Great. Happy to see it happen. Really happy. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. Couple quick things. Hit up my website. Hit up the sponsors, Ledn.io, if you're interested in checking out a Bitcoin-backed loan. Links for that down below. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the like button, smash that little bell icon, because when this airs for the first time, I'm always in the chat chatting everybody up. So make sure you make it for that. And beyond that, if you really like what you saw, you can drop me a tip via the Lightning Network and tippin.me. Links for that will be below. And if you don't know how to do it, I made a video tutorial on how Lightning and tippin.me works. And I'll link to that as well. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.